to get started. It's exactly 9 o'clock, and I did tell you that there's a lot of stuff to cover today. Like, you have no idea. So I want to make sure I'm making really good use of our time. So we're just gonna dig right in. We're on day 4 of the Conquer Cravings Challenge. So I just want to congratulate you all for doing like super well with sticking with it, asking questions, engaging. I love it. That's what makes these like super powerful. So I did promise everyone that at the beginning, like in one of the posts I did, that if you referred someone, you'd get your name in a draw. And so we did have some people that did refer someone. So they are in a draw and they will get a prize. Someone will be picked from there to get a prize. And then I also wanted to just give a prize for at the end of tomorrow, or today. Yeah, look, so at the end of, are we on Saturday? Sunday night, I am going to just be looking through and the community, the Facebook community, and seeing what some of the interaction has been like there. And there's going to be a prize there as well for interaction. And then today, I'm also going to give, it's for something surprise that I want to give another prize. So there's going to be 3 prizes in total. One like now, and then one later. One else is joining. And then one on Sunday night, I'll announce it. So then you'll just need to, So we have, I'm going to do this in an unusual way. But if Debbie, are you there?
Oh, yes, I am. I'm here.
Oh, you are. Okay. Debbie, what I would like you to do is I would like you to pick a number between 1 and 4.
3.
Pam, you are our winner. So you win for referring. So excellent, way to go, super duper. And I will get that price to you. You just won a Starbucks card. So there you go. And so
I have to start drinking coffee.
They have other drinks. They have tea. They have other drinks. So you just won that. And then at the end of today, there's a trigger that I'm waiting for today. And in order for this trigger to happen, I need participation. So if you participate, then you will be entered just by participating. So I'm looking for a particular trigger, and that will tell me, and then you'll hear me go, you're the winner. So there we go. That's for today. And then on Sunday night on the Facebook group, I'd like you to continue to be active in there until Sunday night. Well, you can continue being active in there all the way, like from now on, that's fine. But Sunday night, I'm going to choose another winner from the people who are participating in the Facebook group. So that's the prizes that I have for you guys. And so today, day 4, I want to tell you a little bit about, you've heard bits and pieces of my story, and but I'm gonna tell you from a little bit of a different part today, and why I am so passionate about what I do. Why, when I went back to school and when I started taking more courses when I was 50, why did I start making huge shift in my even in the way I decided to run my business when I relaunched it, because I am so insanely passionate about what I'm going to talk to you about today. Okay, you guys are going to have to tell Becky what the rules are for the prizes, unless you don't want her to win. This is my experience. When I was a child, I was put on diets from really young. My mom didn't want me to get fat. And so I was put on diets. And we're not going to go there. There's like all kinds of issues with that. But where it became an issue for me is my mom was part of a group. She was part of Weight Watchers for years and years. And then I joined Weight Watchers. Then my mom joined TOPS. I don't know if you guys are familiar with TOPS. It stands for Taking Off Pounds Sensibly. There's nothing sensible about the way they took off pounds. And I'll tell you what happened was in the Taking Off Pounds Sensibly, the TOPS group, you had to, you paid a membership, like just a really cheap membership for the year. And then every week, if you lost weight, you didn't have to pay for your weekly meeting, or if you stayed the same. But if you gained weight, now you had to pay. So the idea is that you're going to give the membership of this group accountability, right? Like if they're not going to do their stuff, they're going to pay, and that's going to keep them accountable. So unfortunately, they totally did not recognize that people's bodies are not the same. They totally didn't recognize that if you have hormones and you are menstruating, or even like pre or early post menstruation, your weight is going to fluctuate. Neither did they take into consideration that for me, I was early adolescent. I should have been eating a lot of calories, but I wasn't. I had such low calorie intake. I remember, and I not so long ago found some of my journals, 600 calories was my daily limit. Why was it my daily limit? Because if I went over 600 calories, I might gain weight and then I'd have to pay at TOPS. It was humiliating. It was devastating if I had gained a little bit of weight. And I believed I was fat at the weight that I was because I didn't fit the chart. And the chart, I'm really short, and the chart said that I should be between 107 and 114 pounds. I was 123. Okay. That's not fat. I was like, I know my waist size. I had a 27-inch waist. Do not tell me I was fat, but I was over the chart, what the chart said. And then there was all of this group pressure to lose weight, to have to pay if I wasn't going to be doing it right, all of this stuff. And that's where part of the eating disorder came from, is just the pressure at home, pressure at all these different places. But not only was I not eating enough calories, I was exercising like a maniac, because this I thought would help me lose weight and make sure that I wouldn't be embarrassed when I went back to the meetings. And what came out of that one piece is that I never, ever, ever wanted to talk about my weight. I never wanted to talk about what I was doing, what my diet was, what my calorie intake was, what I was doing for exercise. As a matter of fact, I never liked if anyone knew I exercised, because I was afraid that they would judge me failing or not failing based on whether or not, and they know. I would be like, oh, if I told them I exercise, and they're going to think I'm on a diet. And then if I am on a diet and I'm failing, then they're going to know. And this is like so humiliating. That lived with me for a very, very long time. And when I began to realize that my issues, of course, I didn't stay there. Eventually I gained weight, and like I told you, I ended up well over 400 pounds, which is not funny. But when you consider where I came from, and I thought that I was fat at 123 pounds, craziness, right? So when I began to realize that I was an addict, and that my issues with food probably were going to be with me the rest of my life, I felt very discouraged, because how am I going to deal with this? How can I change my brain? How can I change the way I'm living? I don't want to be trapped and enslaved for the rest of my life. first of all, I want to say again, I'm a woman of faith. So prayer and my relationship with God play a very important role in my ability to stay centered, to stay healthy, to stay whole. That's one really big part. And I get my identity from God. So I am no longer looking for my identity from the world around me, people approving how I look or how I don't look, how I engage with the world. My identity comes from who Jesus says I am. But what I realized is that I live in a really fallen, crappy world and addictions happen. And I watched some really close friends go through addiction withdrawal, and they would join some kind of anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous or Gamers Anonymous, different kinds of groups. And there is actually Overeaters Anonymous. That is a possibility in some regions, in some parts of North America. But at that time, we didn't have that here. And I don't know what it's like. That's the one group I probably have not joined. But what I watched with people who were addicts is that they would like, one in particular, I remember, I said to her, like, where do you always go at 3:00? And she's like, oh, I'm an alcoholic. I have to go to my AA meeting and it's every day at 3. And if I miss it, I'm afraid I'm going to fall off the wagon and I'm going to start drinking again. And I'm like, every single day? Oh, she says, sometimes I go more than once a day. And I was like, what? There's more than one meeting? And I was shocked. And I, kept talking to her over the course of a couple of weeks, like, how does this work? She's like, well, you need support. If you're breaking an addiction, there's triggers throughout your day that are going to like just make you want to go back to drinking. And I was like, well, what do you do if you're addicted to food? I have to feed my children. Every time I open my fridge, I have an issue. How do I deal with this? Because this is a real thing. I'm out driving, going to Costco. I lived in a place where I had a Costco membership. Now I don't have a Costco membership, but you go to Costco to buy food that you may or may not be able to eat or willing to eat, or maybe you want to eat, but you shouldn't eat. And then you're walking through, and I had 4 children who all wanted to taste every sample in the store when they were giving samples. And of course I had to make sure that they were, edible and all. So like, there's no way that I could not avoid food. So I felt like, how would I do this? But the people around me, I didn't know about some of the different things that were there, but the people around me also didn't struggle with food addiction like I did, or what I'm going to say, disordered eating. I sometimes call it disordered eating because there's, in my life, there's the anorexic sort of style of eating, but then there was the bulimic, which was like binge and purge. And then there's just overall gluttony. Like, there's so much disordered eating in my past, I can't even just label it as one thing. So it's disordered eating and a food addict. How do I deal with this? Because this is actually a really big problem. What we know now is addicts need support. Addicts need community. And I did not want it. I did not want it because my experiences previous to being in a group led me to believe that when I fail, I'm going to have to pay a penalty. I'm going to be lambasted. I'm not going to be accepted. And all of my failures are going to be on display for everyone. And there's nothing that feels worse than failing on an eating plan or failing in disordered eating and other people knowing about it. At least for me, it was just so insanely personal. It felt like connected to my identity. However, over time, I also began to do some research. Again, I talked to you about this yesterday, or one of the days, that in Canada, there is one food addiction rehabilitation organization in the East Coast. And when I was listening to her teaching about this, shocked, absolutely shocked at the statistics. And now, when I talk about disordered eating, I am not only talking about people who need to lose weight. I want that to be clear. This is health eating. I say weight loss because for me, that was an indicator of my disordered eating. Disordered eating isn't necessarily for people who are only overweight. It can be people who are underweight, and it can be people who have any number of disordered eating patterns. So I'm going to say weight loss, but I just want you to know that for me, that's what that is. And it might be something completely different for you. What this woman was teaching is that she was saying that what they learned is when people lose more than 100 pounds, okay, so they lose 100 pounds and they do it on their own, and they are followed up at 1 year and 2 year marks. At the 2 year mark, 97%, more than 97%, it's 97.8, I believe, but it's around the 97% mark. 97% of them will have gained back all of their weight plus. That felt so discouraging to me. And I feel like I know exactly what that's like, because I have lost and gained. I lose 30, gain 40, lose 50, gain 60. That's been my life. That's been my pattern. And it's so discouraging. Then why bother trying at all? And then what happens is I lose the weight. I have a couple weeks of trouble. And then my brain goes, well, what's the point? And I go straight into not only disordered eating, but extreme disordered eating. And it affects so many parts of my body. So I felt immediately very discouraged with what she said. But then she said, what they have learned is that, oh my goodness. Cindy, can I get you to please do me a favor and check our group chat about something and help Leona out? Would you be willing to do that for me? Cindy, did you hear? Yeah.
I cut out for a bit there. What
Did you go into our group chat and help Leona, please?
Yeah.
She should have it in her email. Thanks. Sorry about the interruption, everyone. So what this woman ended up saying is that what they realized was that when people lose weight or work on their disordered eating in community with support, not only are they more successful and they do it in a healthy way, meaning they're not going to be doing the binging and purging, the extreme fasting, and the yo-yo back and forth. They're going to do it in a healthy way, and they do it with support. They tend to lose their weight maybe a little bit slower, but they do end up losing their weight. More importantly, they regain health and they become much more happy and content with their body image. So it's more of a holistic change. And what happens is at the end, those who have lost 100 pounds within the context of community, and then they stay within the context of community at 10 years post the 100-pound weight loss, they are 98.7. It's almost 99%. 98.7% have maintained their weight loss. Is that not incredible? Is that not incredible? Community and support makes a difference. But we often say, oh, I'm just going to ask my husband to give me accountability. How does that work for you? When your husband says, should you be eating that? All you want to do is slap him upside the head. You don't want to talk to him about that. When you say to your friends, hey, could you keep me accountable? They'll say yes. And then they're going to buy you food. And then they're going to help you medicate with food. Why? Because that's what they do. And that's all they know. And so it's not necessarily healthy to be able to say, oh, I'm going to ask my friends for accountability. Community support is completely different. And so we're going to take this a short break right now, and I'll talk more about community throughout this. But right now we have one of our panelists is here today. She just popped in. Her name is Leona. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about what the support is like in our group. And this is exactly where she's going to be, what she's going to be talking about. And I want you to hear what she has to say. I have not prepped her. I have no idea. So this is completely cold. And so, but Leona, I want you to share what your experience has been like being in a group about weight loss. Now, I want to tell you that when we go through our webs, it's like WEBBS. One of the B's stands for bowels. We even talk about your poop. Okay, like this is real. This is real stuff here. So, Leona, I'm gonna spotlight you. And would you go ahead and take 5 minutes? And I just want to also say thank you to Leona. She has a crazy busy day. She texted me this morning and said, I can't do this. And I'm like, please give me your 5 minutes. So here she is, Leona.
Hi, all. Great to meet you all. And I'm just going to switch this. Okay, there. Now I can see all your faces when I'm talking. Okay. Yeah, this is a great group. Yeah. And thanks for just letting me join for a minute. I know it's so nuts. So I just turned around, I made a coffee and thought, okay, then I'm just going to sit for like 20 minutes and then I'll then head out again. Yeah. So when I contacted Carla, the community aspect is what scared me the most because I really wanted just a private meeting because it's pretty vulnerable and yeah, it's an intimate setting, whereas you're really exploring and doing some deep dives in your healing. So I found that very intimidating. And but Carla told me all about the community and just said, "Okay, we just need each other." The accountability, which I said, the accountability is what I'm looking for. It's because I'm not successful on my own. I've tried and gone back and forth, yo-yoed for like 10, 15 years, and it's not been successful. So now Carla, again, just gave me all the benefits and the highlights of being in a community. So I said, sure. And to support me, my husband did join me for the first 6 weeks, which was great. So it was me, my husband, Jeff, and Cindy and Carla, 3 8s and me. It was tricky. Let me tell you, it wasn't always easy. I'm a poor little 9 and I'm like surrounded by all these aggressive 8s that are great, but all have, they're 8s. They're being them. And so now I would say the accountability in the community between us has been life-giving and giving this, because it's a hard process. First of all, the food elimination, and then just going through all of that, because you need to do that kind of big breakdown and then that building back up. And even now that we're a few months into our journey, it's amazing on how different but similar some of our paths are, and that we can just all relate and work off of each other, that we can just we can share an experience, and it's vulnerable, but it's good because it's completely safe and confidential. That as you're working through this, I find that it is invaluable. And I've had to miss once, and it was tough because I was on the road, and that's been hard. But I've been, other than today has been crazy, but other than that, I've tried and make, because it's important. And like we text or whatever, the messaging system, and sometimes it's good things that are happening in your world, or it's just a comment, but it's just like, I'm struggling today. And it's like, okay, just the basics, just reminding me just where I've been. And there are accountability. Like I have sent out texts or messages and just said, okay, this is what's happened today. No judgment, but I need it to just be an open book that this is what's happened, or this is a sabotage that I made today. And just, okay, here are the tools, let's move forward. And it wasn't like a big deal. And normally that would have just then spiraled into something else. And that was important for me just to, yeah, it has saved me. And even like when we're doing something or I've got events, I just connect with Carla, and like Cindy and Mavis will chime in. Kate, this is my event. Kate, how am I going to manage this? And that has been invaluable to me. I don't know, Carla, do you have some questions, or do you want to expand on something? Or
no, that's good. So you just mentioned at the end, and this was an important piece I wanted you to bring out. Like, so you had lots of events in the last little while, and you had Christmas because you did just before Christmas.
Right.
And then you had road trips and business trips, and talk about what the support was like to plan for those events. Because this question came up yesterday. Should I do this before summer holidays? And so the question, maybe you want to address that and what that was like to have the support for these events in the community.
Right. Yeah, because we did start in a bit of a bubble. Like we started in at the end of November, middle of November. And so there was a bit of a bubble because we were in a strict lockdown at that point. So we weren't going anywhere. So that was a good way to start. But then it's like, oh, the real world comes at you at Christmas because we still do some stuff with our family. And it was, and then like Carla said, then we did a road trip like for business. And we've had some other social events because we just are making things as normal as possible. We're doing our thing. And what it was like my anxiety level heading out, because we snuck out to Calgary for a couple of days to see friends. They were also, we work at home full time. They work at home full time. So we snuck out to Calgary for a few days. And we have the best relationship, but it revolves only around, and the biggest draw is we love to go to restaurants and eat amazing things and drink amazing drinks. And that we have a great, it's been a 30-year friendship, but that's what we do. And so my anxiety level was very high. Even planning it, I didn't even want to commit to going because I just thought, what am I going to do? How am I going to manage this? And because Mavis is on the road in transportation. So she was really instrumental in helping, like, hey, this is how you pack for the road. And even like restaurants, this is how I look at restaurants. And and just alternates for, well, we drink, so alcohol, like just even better stuff that I can choose and just giving me options. And the other thing was, Carla gave me kind of a script, like to tell them in advance, because it was like, okay, now how do I address this? I didn't want my way of eating to be a really big deal. Like I wanted it just to be normal. I'm normal. This is my protocol. This is what I'm doing to make me feel better. I don't want a lot of attention to it. I don't want it to be a thing. I just want it to be just like, you can eat that and I can eat this and we're all normal. So the script, which was I can't think of the word, instrumental. I don't know. Just saying, this is what I'm doing. I don't like, this is how I'm going to eat. This is the restaurants that I would choose based on, these are my choices because it allows me to have more of a protein based thing. And in the end, and then, okay, I lost my train of thought there. Yeah. That I can just do more protein. These are my, this is kind of where I'm at. And, my friends were amazing. The stuff they stocked in their fridge, like the restaurants that we chose, and like some of it was already shutting down in Calgary. And we like the takeout or the meals that we just shopped for and made at home. Like it was not a big deal. And they just provided all the things. Like it was so good. And when we went to other friends' houses, it's that I was so nervous about saying something in advance. And I just texted and said, Kate, I'm going to just bring some of my own appetizers because this is kind of where that's awesome. Like it wasn't a big deal. I made it a bigger deal. And just having Carla hold my hand through this was a big bonus for me.
And I love how you share that, because that could have been a place where you went off the rails and then didn't come back. But you came back and you come back every time successfully. And so I'm just so proud of Leona. She's done it, super well. And the community, like I love, sometimes we get on the group and then Leona will say, can we just talk today? I like this group.
Yeah, so true story.
It is fun. And we do build close relationships because we see each other every week. And so we are pretty straightforward. And you mentioned the Signal app, and that's something that we use all the time. Right. So thank you, Leona, for taking time from your really super busy day. I appreciate it.
I'll hang out for a few minutes and then I'll log off.
I'm going to ask if anyone has a specific question for you, then this would be the time they could ask that. Does anybody have a question specifically for Leona?
You talked about being 8s or 9s. What does that mean?
So that's our Enneagram. It's a personality style. It's a personality type. So yeah. If you understand the Enneagram, you would understand the 8s and the 9s. Yeah.
And it's funny that we all are because the Enneagram's fairly new to me, and that Carla Ann is also now a coach of the Enneagram. So it's an interesting dynamic to some of our conversations. And Cindy's well versed in the Enneagram, and I'm new, and Jeff just like, he comes along for the ride.
So Becky and everyone else, what Leona's saying is actually key as well, because, and Leona, maybe you can speak to this, but your personality style does affect how you approach your food and how you approach the situations. Because I am a personality coach and I am certified in Enneagram coaching, I also can help you navigate through some of that. So when Leona's, as a 9, doesn't want any conflict, her personality style is, I don't want to ever fight. I don't ever want to rock the boat. So when she says I gave her a script, what I was doing was helping her find words that she's comfortable with so that she can communicate her own personal needs to the people around her in a way that doesn't cause conflict for her. And so would you say that that's helpful for you?
Yeah, and that's exactly right, because you understand personality types, and because we're into the Enneagram, you completely understood where I was coming from and where Jeff was coming from. Like when Jeff was on, or where Cindy's coming from, and May was like, we all have a different situation and how you respond. And the response because you're speaking to our personality type and what words we need to hear, and even just how I'm managing a conflict or how I'm managing a situation. You've given me the appropriate advice so that I'm successful. It doesn't go over my head or anything, because the advice you give Jeff or give Cindy is different from me, and we both achieve success. And Mavis too. We just all can. We hear you give us each different advice, and we can glean something from it, but it is targeted just for us specifically in our situation, I would say.
And I like how you say that you're reminding people that it's still targeted to you, even though we're in a group.
Right.
Super. Does anyone else have a question for Leona before she runs off to her super busy day?
I don't know if this would be for Leona, but is this a typical group size? Like that's like 4 people or something like that? It's a whole lot, for me, less intimidating than like 15. But
the group sizes are, the first 6 weeks are always small. They're always less than 6. The most I've ever had in a group is 5. And plus me, so a group of 6. So, but once you move into the group coaching, that fluctuates. And so that does change a little bit, but the way that it's run, you still get the attention. If it was 15, we would probably not all be making it at the same time. Then we're dividing into different times. So, I actually don't think I've ever had any more than 6 or 8 in a group. Right now, our group is quite small, but again, it cycles through and it changes. Mavis might have an answer to that later. She's been in a little bit longer, but I have had larger groups, but the attention and the education is exactly the same. Yeah. All right. Anyone else? If not, we'll say goodbye to Leona.
Thanks, guys. Good luck. And I'm sure I'll be seeing you in a couple of weeks, possibly when we are all together again.
Super. Thank you.
All right.
See you. All right. Now let me see if I can figure out how to change this again. There we go. I'm back. So community is super, super important with those percentages that I told you about. So when I learned that more than 98% of people stay successful and keep their weight off for more than 10 years, that's what I wanted. And so when I began my, so what I started to do is I started to look for people that I could have community with. Unfortunately, what I found is that people don't want community, and people don't actually want to do the hard work, and they'll only do the hard work till the first hard thing happens, and then they bail. And I'm like, this is not going to work for me. I was actually talking to my brother, and I was telling him, like, I'm really needing to find a way to connect into community that I can really grow something that will be beneficial to me, help me be successful, but also that will be successful in the long haul. Like, I want to do something for whatever, but there's so much more to just weight loss or health than what you can learn in the first 6 weeks. And he's like, why don't you just build this? You can do this. And I'm like, oh, I need to build a community. And so when I started my business, this was one of the things that was an absolute must. So people who say to me, do I have to be in a group? The answer is, I'm never going to force you to do what you want to do, but I can guarantee that you're not going to be nearly as successful if you're not going to do it in a group, because you're not going to have that late at night person saying, oh, you can do it. You don't need to have that emotional snack right now, that emotional event, or who else struggles with this, or what's a recipe I can take here. These are all super important things, but we're also changing our thinking. So let me tell you a little bit about the thinking, and then I'm going to ask Cindy to share a little bit, because what happens is when you begin to change your weight, like already, you guys, I told you that I really wanted you to try adding fat to your diet. And some of you were be going, oh my goodness, fat. I've learned all my life I should be fat free. I shouldn't have fat. And I absolutely should not have saturated fat. And I told you something completely different. And your brain had to, some of you may have, I think, oh, somebody in the chat, it might have been Valley, I'm not sure, remind me, Valley, if I'm right. Somebody, or maybe it was Debbie, said, I couldn't get myself to add butter, right? That's a thinking thing, because we are not accustomed to that. And as we go through, there's so many pieces of education that you're going to learn. And trust me, I'm a research queen. And so I do all this research, and I will learn, and I study, and I take all these courses, and then I try and make it like really easy for other people to understand. But when I start to teach this, some of you are going to go, oh my goodness, this is not what this is exactly opposite of what I've been taught my whole life. And the other thing is, there's patterns of our thinking. For example, if I break my diet and I binge eat, now I need to punish myself and fast for 3 days. That is a thinking that many of us have. It might be something different, but we all have patterns of thinking that are really not healthy. Changing those patterns of thinking is critical to your long-term health. But outside of community, who else is going to say to you, you have stinking thinking or whatever? People aren't going to say that to you. They are actually going to be reinforcing all of the things you're trying not to think and do. For example, when I started to eat this way at the very beginning, when all I was eating was meat, I mean beef, all I was eating was beef. This is before COVID, years before COVID. I went to my mom's, and my mom's like, well, what can I make? And I'm like, well, don't worry, Mom, I'll bring my own food. She's like, no, I want to make you food. So I'm like, well, I'm eating beef. So my mom made me a beef. She made me a roast beef. It was so dry. It was hardly edible. It was like, I can't swallow this. But I had butter. She does have butter in her house. So I like slathered butter on this roast beef. But she also made me a salad, because salad is healthy. And that's all my mom knows. And then not only does my mom have salad, she's like, look, it's calorie-wise dressing. No, I don't eat this. And so trying to not offend my mom and say, I don't eat salad right now, Mom. These are all things, when you're doing it alone, it's super hard. It's super hard because you're changing your thinking, and everyone around you doesn't have the science. They don't have, all they really have are commercials and social media posts. That's where most people get their education, honestly. So changing your thinking is like such a big part of this, and having a community that is working on the same kind of thought patterns and growth patterns and health patterns emotionally, thought-wise, is huge. Cindy, are you ready to share with us for a few minutes? Excellent. I'm going to just put her in here. There you go. You're on. You just need to unmute.
Hi. So Carla, she hasn't prepped me either, but she asked me to answer a few questions. So I kind of wrote out of things. I'm a visual learner. So I'm just reading off of my, okay, there's something on here. Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Okay, so Carla asked me to talk about what are some of the things that I had to unlearn about the process of understanding how my body works. I think the biggest thing is the first thing is I had to realize this, it's an unorthodox way of changing my way of eating is what I needed. So like I used to be so concerned about listening to what people were saying to me. And so being told something different from what I know was really hard. It put me into the fear mode often. I had to unlearn reacting when hungry. I started being aware of my body cues. My thoughts have power. I'm not my thoughts, and what I think happens. So kind of what helped me is when I'm aware, I check in with my body now. I think Carla talked a lot about this. I name my feelings. I ask myself, is this emotional hunger, or am I acting or needing this food? So we've learned, and I talked about choices to binge eating, like, I drink water, I change my location. Carla talked about this yesterday, the movement, going outside, dancing. Breathing and grounding is essential to my life. Affirmation and personal prayer. My key questions that I ask myself: have I had enough salt today? Have I had enough fat today? And I ask myself, is this past emotion associated with food that needs attention, or is it actual hunger? And ultimately, I mother Cindita, my little Cindy. And really, Carla was just talking about offending others. I try not to offend myself. And my process for unlearning is just knowing that I'm safe and working through the fear. So that's that unlearning process. And growth mindset, like I talked a little bit about that yesterday, is I can change the way that I am. I'm not stuck in the past and the way that things are. I deserve a new way. Some key things that have changed in my thinking. I have a poster on my fridge that says, "You're the one that's been holding you back this whole time." I'm big on affirmations. I'm big on little catchphrases that are in my head. I've been on this road before joining Carla's group. I joined in November, as Leona said, and I was the same way. Should I start after January, after Christmas, or should I start now? And I never regret starting now, because it was really huge going through the Christmas season. And I think being in lockdown also, and I'm in Ontario, Kenora, was very helpful, because I couldn't, be lured in by all these outside forces. But the staff room, the cookies, the baking, all that kind of stuff was interesting to see and go through this while I was changing the way that I was thinking. But help and support, like Carla's talking about, and Leona, is essential. I do have good strategies. I do yoga, I breathe, meditation, I ground myself, I journal. But I'm really being my own science experiment to find out what works for me, because I was so always caught up in what should I do? Well, I need to do what's good for me. I liked when Carla talked about not making events about food. Food is for fuel. People are for relationships. These are little things that kept me going. I had to admit, I talked about this before, that I was addicted to food and that I was a disordered eater. I was reading, I love to read. I'm a researcher too. And I was reading a book called In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts by Gabor Mate while going through my detoxifying. It was a book about addiction and language. For me, language has been essential. I shed pounds. I know that I don't talk about losing weight because I don't ever want to find it again. I shed beliefs and thought patterns and the ways that that I think. I talk to myself. What is essential is how I talk to myself. So from the 4 agreements, I'm impeccable with my word. I try not to talk to myself in negative ways, because those are those words and those thoughts that are ingrained into my body and my mind. And I wake up every day and I say, what do I need today? If I'm tired, then I get rest. If I'm needing to move, then I move. So talking and doing that kind of self-reflection, that positive self-talk is essential to me. So ultimately I do what's good for me. I listen to my truth and my body, what makes me feel healthy. And then Carla talked about in our groups last week about what is a new normal for me. So I eat for health and hunger, food is for fuel. That was mind blowing for me, not being attached to those emotional events with food. And I fast from foods that don't give me health. Of course, I go off the rails, but I don't feel guilt about that anymore. It's something that I, like Carla and Leona said, it's, you've done this, don't dwell on it, and start getting back to where you need to be. I eat healthy in my present for my future self. That vagus breathing is essential also for me. When I'm eating, I make sure I'm calm. And I want to heal the intergenerational patterns of my ancestors in society. Gabor Mate is another one, a book he wrote called When the Body Says No. So I've shed pounds and shed beliefs that no longer apply to me. So I created new beliefs and ingraining those new beliefs into my brain and my neural pathways to make sure that those are the new thought patterns. Stress reduction, that inflammation and weight gain are so related to stress, and the sleep. Definitely, I notice those things when you're monitoring your life, especially in those first 6 weeks. Carla, how's working with a coach helped you be successful? The support has been essential. Carla, and then I also talked to my counselor during this time, because the support, this is deep stuff. You're working through a lot of hard emotions, hard past patterns, at least for me. The guidance and knowledge from Carla helped when I was in detox. That first 2 weeks was really hard. But I can't even imagine living like that anymore. I wouldn't have been able to be successful without the help of support of Carla and the group. When my brain was hijacked or behaving like a toddler, Carla Ann just walked me off the ledge. 24-hour support is real. And like she said, it's not just from her, but for Leona and her husband and I, we were all together in that time. So we would just either comment, and now with the new, the group, it's there. And just the validation that I've got this. I'm coming into my 8 power for sure. And I used to worry about what other people thought and what other people's advice. Now I look internally to see what is good for me. I listen to other people and then I find out what is important. And then the group community, the support and sharing in a safe environment has created an amazing community that I really look forward to. I love hearing the vulnerable sharing, and I love that I can be vulnerable. I'm safe to be me with no masks, and I can share that stuff down shame that I never wanted anyone else to see. So I'm free to be me.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing, Cindy. So one of the things that I hope you guys maybe picked up on as she was sharing, is that everyone's journey with me is very individual. People will say to me, well, what's the diet you teach? I don't teach a diet. I don't teach a diet. What I teach is I empower you with education to learn who you are, what is your body, what does it need, how do the foods react with it, and everyone in the group eats very differently. So there's not one single diet. What my goal is that you have the tools that you can make healthy decisions for your body for the rest of your life. That's my goal. So I hope you heard some of that in Cindy's. Would you say that you feel that it's very individual?
Yep.
Yeah, everyone eats differently. Does anyone have any questions for Cindy today before we move on? Just checking on the other screen if anyone has their hands
It's not a
raised.
question, but I gotta tell you, Cindy, I love that. I shed weight because I don't want to ever find it again. I am stealing that. That is awesome.
I love it when Cindy says that.
One of my friends told, like, when I was going through the first couple weeks, she's like, you've been doing this for 50 years. Like, you've been being this way for 50 years. It's not going to happen overnight. And someone had told her that. And so, still what works for you. Because like, I love that, you know, when we meet and Carla talks about this, it's like, what works for you or her or anyone else might not work for me.
And you have to make it work for the whole life, right? This isn't a program, just so to speak, but.
And the first 6 weeks, like you said, is a certain way of being and eating, but after that, like I'm just finding my own way now. And like, exactly when I go away, like, it's like, you know, do you want this? No, I don't eat that. Like, but I don't also want to make it a big thing, like, because this is just the way that I eat. But when it comes down to somebody telling me what to do, I will make it a big thing. Kindly or just silently even, or just leave.
Cool. Any other questions for Cindy before we move on? All right. Okay, so when you've heard a lot already about community. We've got 2 more people to hear from today, and they have very different perspectives on, everyone is very different. Everyone's very individual. But what I really want you to understand is why community is so important. When we are in healthy community, we feel like we can be successful. We feel like we belong. But the other thing is, we feel like we can fail safely, because there's nothing worse than making a mistake. Okay, let me set this up for you. I can eat really, really well for a month, but now if I binge eat for a day or a weekend, I don't want to come back and say anything. But by not coming back, and I do have some clients that have done that because they haven't trusted, or they have chosen not to join the group, which is a big thing. But you know what? I can always tell that they're not going to be successful long term, because what happens is they don't trust the safety of the group. And the group is where you hear someone say, okay, no big deal. Now get up, let's go again. Let's try something different. We're in this together. And when I have failed, there's all these thoughts in my head about, I'll get back on track next week. I'll do it. I'll come back to the group once I feel like I'm good again. Or once I lose these 5 pounds that I gained eating that one meal, then I'll come back. And I don't want the shame of, oh goodness, I failed. Because we have somehow attached our identity to our eating behaviors, and our identity has nothing to do with our eating behaviors. Your identity is who you are, who God created you to be. But our eating behaviors are something that we need support for. So I know for me, when I screw up, and I do, we talk about it in the group, and then, but if I know that when I come to this group and they're going to forgive me, and they're going to do it, not that forgive me, but they're going to just be gentle with me. And now I'm like, okay, now I'm motivated to stay on plan, because this is, again, it's a lifelong plan. It's not about the one weekend that I binge ate. It's not about whatever. But on top of that, there's so much more about my health. So I eat really well for a month. I feel amazing. I binge eat. I feel crappy for 2 weeks. So even if I'm not like doing it perfectly all the time, my body eventually goes, yeah, you don't want this. But I need this community support to remind me and ask me, well, how's your mood? How's your bowels? How's your sleep? Is anything changing? Well, do you like feeling this way? or not. And so doing that makes a really big difference as well. All right, we're going to ask Mavis to share something now. It's your turn. So this is Mavis. She is well, I'll let you tell your story and then we can go from there. Go for it.
Hi there, I'm Mavis, and I'm a food addict, just like Carla Ann. Yeah, except for sometimes I don't want to admit it.
I don't either.
Some of the fears I've had for going through this, I've been on the program over a year, since last January. And yeah, I've fallen off the wagon and I've gotten back up, and I've fallen off again and gotten back up. Some of the fears that I've had to face, some of the good time, like through the good weeks, there's not a lot of fears that I have then, but there's always the one underlying one that I have is failure. Am I going to fail on this thing again? Some of the other ones, and also through the not so good weeks that I often have are, am I going to have to eat like this forever and ever and ever? And it's kind of good to know that, no, I don't have to eat like this forever, but I choose to eat like this right now. So yeah, that's some of the fears. Some of the good things about the group that I love actually is that, yeah, like Cindy had said, that you can go to the group anytime, day or night, when you're having a not so good day or whatever. And they'll just be like, okay, like Carla Ann said, just get back up and let's start again. And sometimes it's also, for me, I find that I have to like make myself go on the group. Otherwise, I'm not going to get the accountability, even when I don't want to, because guess what? I failed again. But I have to make myself go on the group and say what I need to say. Sometimes I still don't. Confession, hello. But it's still making myself get onto the group and say the things that I need to say, just so that I can hear those affirmations that, okay, just keep going. Let's go. Come on. Working with a coach, oh my goodness, I can't imagine doing this on my own, because I did try to do it on my own for a month and I gained 25 pounds. So no, that's not so good. So it's good to have her ideas and her training to lead me in the direction that I actually need to go. And just an FYI, the 8 and the 9 and the things like that, I have no idea what they mean yet. So whatever. And maybe one day I will. But when they go on the group and like, oh, my 8's coming out. Okay, whatever. Again, being part of the group has definitely been a success. Last few weeks has been a binge mode, and coming onto the group, we get together on Thursdays, coming onto the group and saying, okay, this is what I did. This is how I'm feeling. And they're like, not judging, not putting me down. They're lifting me up, patting me on the back like Carla Ann does, like, hey, you got here. That's a big point right there. And definitely for me, that is a big point of getting onto the group, actually making the time to get on the group wherever I am. Because I notice when I miss a week, then it just kind of all starts balling up together. And then it's like, oh, next week, no, I don't really want to go on because I did this and this and this. But again, kicking yourself in the butt and saying the things that you need to do on the group and having the support no matter what through it all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you. Thank you. I really love what you shared, Mavis. And so Mavis did the year and then took time off because she was like, okay, I know what I'm doing now. I know what I'm doing. And that's the month that she took off. And we met at Superstore actually in the entrance, and she's like, I need you. to come back. And but community really does make a difference. So I just want to say like that year, but then if you stay in community, you have the ability to have the encouragement. And sometimes it's a kick in the pants encouragement, and sometimes we just need to be gentle and soft with each other. It really is different for each person and every time. But I never ever want it to be like, even we've talked about weight loss goals so few times because the goal is not reaching a certain weight number. I will actually, I don't know, maybe you guys can like, have I ever even asked you what your goal weight is? That's not the goal. What I've asked you is, how do you want to feel? Do you want to be healthy? This is about being healthy. It's about eating the right way. This is about thinking the right way. This is about becoming holistically healthy. We don't talk about our goal weight. We talk about whether or not we're losing and gaining because we are using that as a measure of health and inflammation. But I never ask about a goal weight. So success in this group is not ever about attaining your perfect weight or your perfect body measurements or anything. This is about maintaining health and getting healthy. And some people may never get to their goal weight because their bodies may not, or it might take them 10 years. I never want to promise to someone, oh yeah, you're going to lose all your weight. I cannot promise that. I can promise your health is going to change. That I can promise. And so in our groups, it is not about, oh yay, you lost 2 pounds. Whoa. Now, how come you didn't lose 2 pounds? And you're never going to ever hear that. Never. But the other thing is, not everybody in our groups is there to lose weight. Right now, there was some of that, but I've had larger groups. Let me just, I'll just quickly finish this, and I'm going to ask for questions for Mavis. I have had people in my groups that are at weight or underweight, but are unhealthy and needed to gain health and joined. That's why I changed it to be calling it health coaching. I use still weight loss because it's in my branding, but for health, because they needed to get healthy. And yeah, one of them was underweight. She lost 8 pounds, but then it came right back. But health completely changed. So not even everybody's looking for weight loss in the group. So it really depends on it's so individual. I cannot stress that enough. So any questions for Mavis? Wow, you get off easy today, Mavis. All right.
Can I ask something in there? This was actually really good for me, that she's been over the year, because that is one of my fears, and Carla, and I've known you since you started this, and I asked you way back when, and this whole accountability, because I know I can't do it on my own. It's a good piece to know that we can still be in that community, and that I'm just not left to drift off, because I did that just recently where I lost 55 pounds, and through COVID, I gained 45 of it back. And it's because of that non-community. Also a lot of emotional eating, but community to me is huge. I have to have that accountability. So I kudos, like, in the sense, it's good. I'm glad to hear that.
And I just want to say, I am so proud of Mavis. She has a hard job. She's on the road all the time. She can't always stop. She can't always cook her own food. And when things get rough, she comes back. But I think, Mavis, you might even just want to talk about this a little bit, but the health differences, staying on plan, even if you're falling off and then coming back, the health differences. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, no problem. The health differences, oh my goodness. last week and a half, I have been binge eating, emotional eating. And it's not all bad stuff. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I'm not going to lie. It was crappy stuff. It was sugar, man. But the difference that only like 4 days makes of being back on my plan, not the cheat plan, but on my plan is huge. Like, I can actually get some sleep. I can actually move. My joints don't hurt. My thinking, didn't realize I could think like that. Wow. Yeah, just overall is just a huge difference. The energy that I get when I go back onto the plan that I need to do, because yeah, I do need to do this, because otherwise I feel like crap and I'm slowly getting down into my deathbed. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
Hope that answers.
Yeah, that was good. Thank you. Good stuff. All right. Any other questions for Mavis before we let her get off the spotlight? There we go. So I saw a comment come in here. Let's just see if it's a question. I need to just move this. Hang on a second. The weekly community is your addiction. Yeah, it is. It's your addictions meeting. That's totally. This is like AA for us, except we don't call it AA, right? So, all right. So again, community is super important. And we talked yesterday about the emotions. We talked about fat. Fat is super important for your brain. Fat gets your brain what it needs so that it can relieve you of that drive for more nutrients, because it's a nutrient that your brain needs. Then we talked about planning and admitting the addiction and talking about that. Then yesterday we were talking about emotions and how to de-escalate the emotions. So what I told you yesterday is that I would not have time, and I don't, to have time to talk to you about actually working on emotions. But what I want to do is I want to show you a video now of the fourth person who works today, so she could not come. But she started in my plan in the life coaching portion, but very quickly we realized that the life coaching portion to deal with emotions wasn't going to work unless she was doing the eating protocol, because her brain needed the fat and her brain needed to be de-addicted or unaddicted from some of the things that she was doing. So she couldn't even do the emotional work she was hiring me to do. And I personally, I don't want anyone to pay me for any services that they're not going to actually be successful in. So we had a really frank discussion, and I offered and I said, like, could we try something for a while and let's see if this makes a difference. And I'm going to share my screen and see if I can figure out how to do that, because where did it go? Just give me a second here. Let me open this.
Can I just add that this is not for the lighthearted? You've said that more than once, that, if you're not ready for this, don't,
I'm there for you.
It's hard.
But I never ever say that it's easy. And I think in that email that you sent, I sent to you, I think I said it's, I won't promise it's easy. It's not. But when you're doing it together, it's way easier. All right. So I am attempting to share this. Here we go.
Cass, thank you for being here. And I know that you agreed to share some of your experiences. And so now, would you be willing to tell us a little bit about how you're eating and maybe why we decided to do this?
Yeah, so I'm currently eating the high fat, no sugar, no carb diet, so mostly meat. And my reason for kind of starting this whole journey was just because I was in a lot of physical pain, and most of the things that had been either prescribed to me or things that I was told to try just were not working. And so I was just kind of, at my last straw, and figured, hey, I might as well give this a go because things can't get much worse than they already are. So, and the changes have been amazing.
Very cool. Now, are you willing to tell us a little bit about some of the other reasons why you came to coaching in the first place, and how we added this, the food protocol to help with the other side? Want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I have gotten a variety of different diagnoses through my life. The first one is polycystic ovaries, and then something called premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which is a lot of emotional instability based on my hormones. And then my hormone levels were so off balance. So I've been told to try a variety of different ways of eating, with cutting out meat being a primary one, because apparently, according to doctors, meat causes a lot of inflammation. So at one point I was almost basically vegan, and then I was sort of vegetarian, and it was just kind of all crazy. And then just the emotional overwhelm that comes with not having a lot of control due to hormonal imbalances. And I was just completely a bit of a slave to that roller coaster in of itself. And the amount of physical pain that I was in was definitely affecting my mental and emotional ability to just function in general. So that's kind of big picture. It all just really ties together. And I didn't have many doctors that kind of recognized that as a whole. So when I was told about you and the work that you do, it just really made sense and clicked in my head that it is all connected, and I felt like it was all connected. And so to find someone that also believes in that and agrees with that and can work through all those different things in a very holistic, well-rounded way was just really what I was looking for.
Super. Oh, I love it. And so I know when you started at like high fat, moderate protein, and then like almost carbs, you were really nervous about that, and you were kind of scared you were just going to always want to eat the baking that's on the counter and all that. So tell me how this has affected you, your cravings.
Yeah, so at the beginning I realized very quickly that I am a huge emotional eater. So that was probably the hardest thing to get used to, was it's not even what I'm eating, it's why I'm eating. So realizing kind of those patterns of, in the past, I didn't actually want to eat all those carbs or all that sugar or whatever it was. It was just an emotional response, and I felt like I had to fill it with something. So now having these kind of restrictions and guidelines of what I am allowed to eat really kind of helped me realize how much of an emotional eater I actually am. And not just when I'm sad, it's when I'm bored or when I'm happy, or to encourage myself or whatever it is. And so it was very, interesting to actually recognize those patterns and then evaluate all of that in of itself and figure out in that moment, am I actually hungry? And most of the time the answer is no.
And so have you found that your cravings have changed since you started this protocol?
Yeah, mostly in that I don't actually have that many cravings anymore, which is amazing. And I never, like, the urge to just sit down and binge eat whatever is in front of me, I haven't had that in a very long time. And I think that comes from being aware of those emotions and evaluating that in a healthy, comfortable space, right? I'm not trying to escape from all of that anymore. And it's just take it for what it is, figure out the reason, and then move forward with it.
Yeah, that's super. And then all the fats, and then having come away from addictive foods has made it.
Yeah.
So I know that today, the people that are going to be watching this video, they are wondering what it's like to work with me. So what is it like to work me to understand your body and your emotions? What are some things that stand out for you?
The first word that comes to mind is empowering. I have never felt so comfortable in who I am and in evaluating my own emotions. And I think too, the way that you approach situations and the way that you explain things, it just makes so much sense in the brain.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's definitely the biggest one. As far as the diet and changing all of that and how I feel physically, I'm only 23 and I feel physically better than I have ever felt in my entire life. So for a 23-year-old to see those changes is kind of insane because I should feel great all the time.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I feel better now than when I was in my 20s. So I agree.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So if you could share an aha moment, either about the food or what it's like to be in my coaching, something. And again, I just want people to understand, sometimes it's hard to say, hey, I need coaching or sign up for something because, like, what if I don't like it? What if it's not going to work? What if, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard because we want to hear from a real person what's it really been like.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
What can you share about what it's really like and what's been a huge aha moment for you?
I think the biggest one being food related is that, I was very skeptical and nervous at the beginning of how this was all gonna work out and look like, and if I would even enjoy the food that I'm eating. And so far, I've loved everything that I'm eating. So that's super great. And then I think the biggest aha moment for me was the first time that I didn't follow the diet like I was supposed to. I think there were about 2 days where I figured, you know what, I'm gonna eat what I want and it's gonna be fine. And I did that for 2 days. And on the third day, I was in so much physical pain that I could barely get out of bed and then barely make it up the stairs. And that was a huge moment for me of like, oh my gosh, this is the pain that I used to feel every single day. And I haven't felt it since I've started this. And now I go off the diet and it's instantly back. And so that definitely helps keep me on track as far as the diet aspect of things, because I just remember that feeling and I don't want to be in pain anymore. So that was, probably the biggest like light bulb moment for me where I was like, oh, hey, this is actually working. That's super great. And then I think as far as the emotional stuff, like your Enneagram coaching has helped me so much with just understanding my own personality and those lines of alignment and how I revert to certain behaviors in certain situations, and being able to see that from, taking a few steps back and actually evaluating all of that and understanding why I respond the way that I do and why I say the things that I say or feel the need to do certain things. Just having that understanding is super helpful. And I never would have thought that I didn't know myself as a person until I learned about that and then realized, oh yeah, I don't actually know that much about myself. So I've really enjoyed this process of, getting to know myself physically, mentally, and emotionally, and what works for me. And those things that are specifically my things that help me as a person, that is so beneficial.
Super. Well, thank you so much. And
all right. So she did talk a little bit at the end about the Enneagram coaching, which is the personality coaching that I do. But there's lots there. She talked about her emotions as one of the clients that I have that struggles with emotions with her, one of the disorders, being able to work through that at the same time as working with the food issues, help make the emotional issues possible. Because if your brain is inflamed and things are not going well in your body, you're in pain, You know what it's like. If you have a headache, you don't have patience. So when your body's inflamed and you're not feeling good, you're not going to have the capacity physically to make the good decisions that you need. So again, there you hear a little bit of it, a bit more. I actually don't enjoy all of this because it makes me feel like people are saying good things about me and I feel nervous about that. But the reason I wanted to share these with you is because I would want to know, if I was going to be joining a community in a group, is it safe? How do people honestly, truly feel? And so I gave them all questions, but they all did it free for all. You heard their own ideas, their own heart. So I hope that's helpful for you. Again, the offer that I want to make for you is to join this community. And that's through that offer that I gave you yesterday. So you got that in your email yesterday. If you didn't get it, then please let me know, because that offer includes that first 6 weeks. I call it intensive stage coaching. It's intensive because that's when we go through the detox. That's when we go through like lots of early education. We go through the rest period. That's going to be your hardest part as far as food changes, because you're going to go through the withdrawal with your addictions. So that's going to be the first. That's why it's called intensive stage. After the intensive stage, we move into the active stage coaching, and that lasts the rest of the year. Because it's lasting the whole year, you can actually relax and rest in the process of the food decisions you're going to make, because no one's going to ask you in 6 months, have you met your goal? So being committed to that year and knowing that you're going to change your thinking, you're going to change your food choices, you're going to change how your body moves. There's just going to be so much change, but it's all done according to what you need and with support of the community, right? So there's that. You do get a Web's journal. I won't even explain that to you right now, but that is a journal you use for an entire year that is going to help you track your emotions, your body signs, your bowels. Yes, poop. I told you we talk about poop, and your sleep, all of that. That's all going to be part of what our conversations are. But I also give you freedom. If you don't want to weigh yourself, you don't have to. We never want to be a slave to the scale. The scale is only an indicator of change in our body. The scale is not an indicator of who we are as people. So I never make that a really big deal. It is part of the Webs, but it's not, the number on the scale is not important. Then you'll also get that emotions mastermind. Again, doing this in community is so important, because emotion work is hard work. It's hard work. And so when you're doing it with others, you will see their progress and it'll encourage your progress. You'll see where it's hard, where it's fun, where it's easy, where there's breakthrough. And that makes a really big difference. So that's where you would get that, as well as the book that goes with that. That's a workbook. And then, so all of that is written out in there. I really highly recommend that if you want to see lifelong change, you want to be part of a good community, this is something I'd love to see you guys part of. Are there any questions? We're almost at 10:30. I was hoping to be done by 10:30, but if we're not, that's fine. It's most important for me that you guys feel comfortable. We've covered 4 very big parts of breaking the cycle of addiction. When it comes to eating, emotional eating, conquering cravings, there isn't one simple fast step, but it includes fat, definitely feeding your brain fat, planning, and admitting that it's an addiction, and then planning around that addiction. And then yesterday we talked about de-escalating emotions, de-stressing, all of those physical things that we can do to reduce our fight, flight, freeze protocol that our body's built with. And then today we talked about community. 4 super important, necessary parts to breaking emotional eating. Notice I did not say willpower. And one day you'll see my video on willpower if you join the group. It's powerful when you begin to realize what willpower actually is. And we can't just pull up our bootstraps and do the thing. So I want to support you. I want to be here. I hope you have gotten a lot of value out of this particular 4 days. I always want to bring value. And I come with the real me. So if you don't like this, then you probably won't like the next year of spending together. But I think we have a lot of fun. And I don't know. I think it's good to be in community with even people you can learn from. Becky, how can I answer your question?
Not sure if it's so much a question, but as last year, November, December, as I was going through radiation, I wasn't able to eat for a whole entire month. After that, I had lost a lot of weight, and I started introducing food slowly again. But coming out of that now of a few months, and taking, I took the opportunity these 4 days to eat the way you talk about, evaluate how my body responds. And I did an experiment on, what was it? I think day 2, Thursday, where on Wednesday I had been completely, just increased my fats and no carbs, like no breads, no flour, no whatever. And on Thursday, I went to Winnipeg with my daughter, had an appointment, and she wanted to, it was around supper time, and she wanted a burger. The discomfort I felt eating that burger all day long, it just made me feel so bad. And just like with whatever you've been teaching these 4 days, now again, like avoiding that, it just feels so much better. Like it's a way of getting to know our bodies, how we react to different foods, which before I never knew I had any kind of issues, but just the way I feel and the physical pain, these past 4 days, like it has been much less. So I am able to enjoy life much better going through that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what you eat makes such a difference. I'll tell you something. I'll tell you a little bit about what I learned for myself. I'd been eating keto, and I'd been, gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, whatever, for a long time, and I kept gaining weight. When I went through the detox process, and then I began to add food back, when I added chicken to I thought, oh, this should be easy. I was so excited to add chicken. I can't eat chicken. If I eat chicken, I can hardly walk the next day. The inflammation in my body is astronomical when I eat chicken. But what was I eating when I was eating keto? I was eating chicken on salad, chicken breast, chicken legs, chicken wings, roast chicken, because chicken's supposed to be this healthy food. My body cannot handle chicken. To this day, I don't eat chicken. But how was I to know if I didn't take everything out of my diet and then add it back in a specific process? As soon as I realized, oh my goodness, chicken isn't good for me. No wonder keto didn't work for me, because I was eating so much chicken. And then I also learned other vegetables. I was eating, I do eat some vegetables, but we would talk about that. What I eat doesn't matter, because everybody's body is different. But I have some clients who can't eat pork. I have some clients who can eat all of the meat. And I have some who can't do dairy. I have some who can't do eggs, but I have some who can do everything. It really is individual. And that's what I think the difference is. And learning your body, all we're doing is teaching all I'm trying to help you with is discover what brings your body health, and then stop eating the things that don't bring it health. Like I'm going to say it's really simple, not necessarily easy, but it's really simple. Just stop feeding your body what it doesn't like. The problem is your body's not going to send you an email and say, oh, this is what it doesn't like. Oh, Bavis, are you heading off?
Yes, we're off to the lake this weekend. So
have fun.
So Pam, yes, it works at the lake. See you.
Super duper, super duper. Becky, I appreciate that, because exactly what you're saying, how the food that you add to your body is going to change how your body feels. Yeah. Are there any other questions that I can answer? Maybe questions about the program, anything else? There is a deadline. I just want to talk about the start of this first one will be sometime, I believe, this week. We're starting with the mastermind, the Conquer Cravings Mastermind. That's the 12-month program. It starts, of course, with 6 weeks. And then the emotions one, I just have to confirm the date. I'm working, I have a couple of bigger things happening. I need to confirm the date, and I will get back to you, but that will start probably within the next 3 to 4 weeks, but I need to confirm that before I announce that exact date. But if you purchase it before Sunday, you're definitely in. I will be advertising it again, so hopefully there'll be more people, but they will be at the full price. They won't get the discount that you guys have. So if you're buying it in the Emotions Mastermind, so my previous clients, or in the Conquer Cravings Mastermind, you will not have to pay the higher price, just so you guys know. Cindy, did you have a question?
You answered it.
Oh, okay. All right then. Great minds think alike. Any other questions that I can answer before we end?
Quick question. We weren't able, oh, sorry, Becky. We weren't able to ask Cass questions, but how long has she been on your thing? And it's not, I'm not trying to be nosy, but I'm just curious. You have some, like Cindy's, like November, Mavis has been over a year. Like how, I guess my question is how do they range? Does that make sense? As far as people with you?
Right now on our group, the people in our current, this is a hard question for me to answer, partly because of privacy. Right now in the group that Cindy, Mavis, Jeff, and Leona are in, Jeff doesn't very often come anymore. So it's normally just the 3 of them and me. And Cass would like to, but it doesn't fit her work schedule. So that's where that is. Then I do have other clients that, like I said, they don't all choose to be part of the group. And that's disappointing. And I have had clients that have been through the year, and then they have come off, and they've gone on their own, like Mavis did. Some of them stay on their own. Some of them will pop in and do a session with me here and there. That's all kind of different. I have had a few people quit because they don't like it or they don't want to. I'll be very honest. I find that super sad. I had one client, lots of medications, really unhealthy, lost over 50 pounds, was off all but 2 of her medications, and then said, you know what, I would rather be on medication and eat whatever I want. That's really hard for me as a coach, but it's everybody else's decision. So yeah, I do have people that come back like after their year. Not everybody chooses to come back to the group. I have one that regularly comes back and says, I want to join the group, but has a spouse who says, you've already done it, you don't need to do it again. And so there's, yeah. But the successful ones, like I don't follow up with them to say like, how are you doing with all of them all the time? But the ones that I do connect with, they also have strongly supportive families and communities outside if they're after the year. But everybody's different. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions?
Is there any way that one can pay that in payments?
That is something that I would have to talk to you about privately. I have found payments not successful. But if that is the only way that you can do it, then we can have a private conversation. I have found that payments isn't successful, not for me, but for the client. Honestly. So that's where that is. On my website, I think it still says I offer it. It's more money to do it. And I do that on purpose because it's not beneficial to the client. And yeah, so. All right, so today's, oh, I forgot to give the prize and it even happened. Okay. Becky, you won in the middle of the thing. And it was a particular question you asked. So you will get a Starbucks gift card as well. And then tomorrow night is the other one. So and Becky, you both get one. And the other thing that I wanted to just ask you guys is to go into the Facebook group and do a video and just share with everyone what your takeaway is, what you might be changing in your life based on what you learned this week. And yeah, I'd just love to hear from you guys there. Sound good? All right, it was nice to meet you all.